Hello, hello. Hey, wealth family. Good evening. I hope you guys had a great weekend. It is Monday, September the 8th. It's 11:13 p.m. Central Standard Time. So we're going to do daily markup this way from now on. I'm going to mark it up and then upload it to YouTube because TikTok is being finicky. So if you're not tapped in on YouTube, go ahead, hit the link in my bio and come follow me on YouTube. All right. All right, so we're going to start on the dollar, and we already know the drill. We know we start on my monthly time frame. I mark up my monthly zones. All right, and I use my zones for entries and exits. All right, and then I'm going to come down to my weekly and mark up my weekly zones. I like to use my magnet tool just because it's accurately with grabbing price. So I don't have to worry about my lines being off. All right, so I have my weekly zones. Now I see that price ran last week's low. I just want to zoom over, look over on my left to see if there was any area over here that has a fair value gap or try to figure out where the market is going next. I can mark this a low here, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to go down to my dollar, down to my daily time frame. All right, and here on the daily, we can see that the dollar has been moving sideways. We know that for the past couple of weeks, and now we just ran a low. Price has moved outside of our consolidation area, and I still don't really see. I see a fair value gap here, but I can see that price came into that area there. So I am just going to mark this next low here. All right, and now I'm going to come down to my 4 hour. You guys can see the consolidation a little bit better. Right here, right? Price was moving sideways. Now we just came outside of our zone here. I really don't have anything else that I can add to this markup. Where we're waiting on now is for price to come back into this zone here. And I do have a fair value gap right here on my hourly time frame. This fair value gap is going to tell me my direction, okay? I want to see price either trade into this, and really it's going to come back into this black line here, which was my monthly zone, and then it's going to reject. I am not going to go for sales until we get back underneath this red line here, okay? Or it's going to come back into our monthly area here. It's going to retest, and then we can take it up to 50% of last week's candle, okay? So that's all we have on the dollar. All right, next we're going to mark up the yen. I use this to correlate with my JPY pairs, same way you use the dollar to correlate with your USD pairs, all right? So I do the same thing. I come over here to my monthly time frame. I mark up my monthly zones here. Come to my weekly time frame. Mark up my weekly zones. All right, and as you can see here on the yen, we were consolidating for a couple of weeks within this area. Price came and ran the low. Looks like price is trying to come back up. I do have 2 points of rejection here, so I am going to mark a trend line here. And then I have 2 points of rejection above. So the yen is currently inside of a wedge. Let's come down to our daily. I'm going to tighten up my trend lines here. You see how we have the wick above. I know that I can do another trend line with the exact wick. So I'm going to do that down here too. All right. All right. So Monday on the yen, prices already come outside of our monthly and our weekly range, and it's already making its way back up. I was looking for a sell on EJ. So let's see. We'll mark up EJ next. See if price gave us an entry. There's pretty much not much that we can mark up. This has already started to run back to last week's high and back to this trend line here on the yen. So I am going to mark up EJ next. All right, so as you can see, I do have a position tool here. I did call EJ sells in my Discord here. I called it earlier. We got stopped out for like 15 pips and then we were able to get back in here. So we got stopped out for 16 pips and then we were able to get back in. So we are in profit here on EJ. All right. So I'm going to delete this chart, remark it up, and then I'll show y'all what I saw to get into this trade. All right, so we are on our monthly time frame. Mark up my monthly zones here. And then let's come down to our weekly time frame. All right, and if you hadn't noticed, my weekly zones are now red. I was starting to realize that I needed to differentiate my zones because price can turn around from the weekly or the monthly. All right, so now we have that. Now let's come down to our daily. As you can see, EJ was consolidating. We finally broke outside of this consolidation. I am going to mark this high right here. This looks like some liquidity, really equal highs. It doesn't look okay. So this did run it by a little hair. See that? But I am still going to keep that marked. All right, and then I'm also going to mark this fair value gap here. All right, now I'm going to come down to my 4 hour time frame. And what I was originally looking for Sunday, we got beautiful new week opening gaps. As you can see, this candle was Friday, this candle was Sunday. Price gaps between these two for 51 pips. So I was looking for price to come back down and fill that gap. So we come down here to our hourly time frame. Price came into this fair value gap here. And then we got underneath our weekly, which is what I was looking for. And then I got in around this area, and my stop loss had to have been here. It was too tight. It was 16 pips, got stopped out, and then price came back underneath. So what we have here now, price came and broke our 15-minute structure here. This was our last area that took us to this last high. Price broke that structure. Price came back into the fair value gap. That should have been my entry. My second entry was here, this fair value gap right here. Excuse me, rub it in my eye. All right, and then now I am taking it to last month's high first, which would be here. Stop loss above this wick here. And I think I actually did stop loss up here because it's 30 pips. But I am going to tell the group to tighten that stop loss. All right, so now right here we have last month's high. All right, this was last week's high. This is 50% of last week. This is a last week's low. So the first area I want to take it into is last month's high. It's a nice 47 pips. It's a 2-to-1 trade. After that, if we get underneath here, retest it, then I am going for last week's low, okay? We just looked at the yen. We know that the yen is pushing up. I'm actually just going to set an alert here. And then once price gets to the top of this wedge here, I'll just pull my EJ trade, okay? So that's what I have for EJ. And I'm going to put my green bullet on that. And let's do all our JPY pairs right now. All right, next we'll do GBP, JPY. We're going to go to our monthly time frame. We are going to mark up our monthly zones. All right, and then I'm going to come down to my weekly. I'm going to mark up last week's zones. I'm not going to mark up last week's high because last week's high and last month's high is in the same area. Alrighty, and I do notice that we have a fair value gap right here. I want to see where we are in this gap. All right, so I'm going to mark that up. This should be our next area if price continues bullish. Now I'm going to come down to my daily time frame here. As we can see, price was consolidating. Now we got our impulsive push up. Price just broke this high here, came back into our zone. Let's come down to our 4-hour. All right, so our new week opening gap here it wasn't filled, but price did come back to 50%. And then it bounced off of that 50%. And then price has given us a higher low here, okay? So this was our higher high. This was our higher low. I am actually going to mark this zone here just so that I can know that that is there. And now I'm going to come down to my 1-hour time frame. And here on my 1-hour, I am going to draw this trend line here. All right, and then price is sitting inside of this price balance range here. We have a fair value gap and an inversion fair value gap right here. All right, so I'm just going to keep this green zone. What I want to see from here and on the lower time frame is for price to come underneath this zone, okay? Trade back down here. Since I know we already reacted to this fair value gap from the opening already, I know price should come underneath it. But that's a good 40 pips to last week's high. No, 50%. Last week's high is the same area. Now, the thing about this 50% is I'm not sure if price is going to bounce and go higher from there or if we're going to get underneath here and then go to last week's low. So this area right here is going to tell us where we are going to go in direction, okay? So that's all we have on GJ. Let's come over to UJ. Let's come over and do our monthly zones here. All right, so price is reacting off of 50% of last month's candle. We are going to come down to our weekly. All right, and I see this fair value gap right here. I'm just going to see if 50% of this was already hit. All right, it was, so I'm not going to worry about that. I do see 2 points of rejection, so I'm going to draw a trend line under here. All right, now I'm going to come down to my daily time frame. Don't really see much here on the daily that I can mark up. Price has been consolidating something serious. Let's come down to our 4-hour time frame. Price has already filled our opening gap. Price is reaching for last week's low. It's pretty much in the middle of our zones here, so there's not much we can do. All we can do is wait for price to come down to last week's low. All right. If we get a break and retest of last week's low, then I'll take it to our monthly low, which is a good 57 pips, and then to our trend line there. All right. But we got to get a break and retest in order to sell. So it has to reject from this zone here and continue lower. All right. We don't want price to come out and then come back in. If price comes back in, then we want to retest this zone here and we can bring it back to last week's 50%. And there's also a fair value gap right there. All right, that's UJ. Let's come over to odd JPY. Let's mark up our monthly zones. All right, and all I'm marking up is last month's candle, last month's high, last month's low, last month's 50%, and then last week's high, last week's low, and last week's 50%. And I use my rectangle tool to measure 50%. If you open up your rectangle tool, double click it, and under style, you tap middle line, and it'll draw that middle line for you. And that middle line is 50%. I use that for my fair value gaps and to measure my candlesticks, okay? All right, so here we are on AJ. AJ, it looks like it's probably filled its gap. I do see a trend line here, but it looks like we've already broken and retested it. Okay, so we've broken it. We haven't retested it. Let's come down to our 4-hour. Okay, so price has not filled in our new week opening gap here. Right here, which aligns with our trend line here. All right, let's come down to our hourly time frame. And on our hourly time frame, it looks like price is possibly trying to create a head and shoulders here. So see a shoulder, a head, and oh, messed that up. And a possible, right? So for here on AJ, this is our weekly high. This is our monthly high. We can't trade this until price comes underneath this monthly high. And it's just a good 27 pips. It's not really worth it until we can either get underneath here, right, and take it to last month's low for about 60 pips. Or if price rejects, we want to take it back higher, and let's come over here on our 4-hour. We're going to zoom over to the left, and we are going to look for a fair value gap. I see a fair value gap here, and then I see an opening, a new week opening gap here. I'm going to mark both of these off. That one and this one. And I'm marking this one off, but as we can see, this one has already, prices already touched this area here. So it may come and break it again. All right, let's go back to current time here. Okay, so that would be our closest target. So I'm going to wait for price to come here. All right, price comes here and I will take it back to here, 68 pips. All right, or if we get underneath here, retest, then we take it back to last week's low. All right. So I'm not going to get stuck up in this zone. When it comes to trading, you want clean, open pockets, right? To be able to easily make money off of these trades. So this right here is just 23 pips. And if we look at it on the 15-minute, you see how it's just sideways movement up in here. So we want to wait until we break out of this area. All right, that's AJ. Let's come to CAD JPY. CAD JPY has filled in its new week opening gap. I cannot believe I missed this, but I've been working on not trading Mondays and Sundays. Tuesday London session has been the best trading session for me throughout the week. So I'm sticking to currency pairs on Tuesday London session or Monday Asia session, because in my back testing, I've noticed that some of those trades start Monday Asia session, which is crazy. But and then we're doing daily scalps, because I realize that I do want to be in the market every day, but I don't want to um, overwhelm my account with trying to catch currency trades all the time. So I am opening up my live room to trade with me, to come and scalp Nas. And then if you want to come trade London session with me on Tuesday morning, I have opened up that room, and the link is in the description. If you want to come and join, it's just $50 a month. And you'll come and live trade with me. All right, so CAD JPY, look at that. We're almost to our trend line here. This is definitely going to be one of those ones where I'm looking for price to come run the low and then bring us back up. We have this wonderful fair value gap up here that price has not come to fill yet. So I'd love to see that, but we don't predict the market, we react to it. So if the market decides that it wants to sell, once it gets outside of my zone here, I'm looking for, I see an inversion here, an inversion fair value gap right here that price hasn't come back and reacted to here on our 4 hours. So this is where I'd like to see if price comes underneath our weekly and underneath our monthly, retest it and rejects it. That's the major part. Then we'll come down here to this inversion is 58 pips. NZDJPY. All right, NZDJPY here on our monthly time frame. We're going to mark up our monthly zones. All right, price is sitting right on last month's 50%. We've already ran last week's candle. I am marking last week's candle because, as you can see, it's just like a pip away from last month's high, but we are going to mark it up. All right, now I'm going to come down to my daily here. And looks like in my daily price is leaving this fair value gap here. All right. I can mark a trend line here. I got a point of rejection here and here. And we just got on top of our trend line. And now I'm going to come down to my 4-hour time frame. Now here on NJ, we haven't closed up our new week opening gap. So I am going to mark this gap here just for references. So just in case price rejects here, I can know why. All right. So last week's range was kind of a small range. It's 71 pips. 71 pips. We have this trend line here. What I would be more interested, I would be more interested in buying than selling. Let's see. We have this whole range up here for the monthly for price to come up here and run last month's high. I would have to get on top of this daily fair value gap here. So what I would like to see is price come back in to our new week opening gap and then reject. And then I would buy from here. I would be